I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. I don't know how many of you know that we have been fighting a good fight and a strong fight to make sure everyone in the city of Chicago has the opportunity to heal by attending a public mental health clinic. In 2012, the city of Chicago made the decision, unfortunately, to close 6 public mental health clinics. Before we go further, is everyone comfortable with having their picture taken? If anyone is not comfortable, please raise their hand and so that the photographers can know. Those all probably. You need some more? If anyone does not have a program book, we will have the program book online, and it'll be on the Mental Health Movement's website. So you can get a copy of that, or you can stop by the office and we'll have some there. Our office is at 602 East 61st Street. Are we ready? Yeah. Okay. Our goal tonight is to educate any and all candidates about the journey of the public mental health clinics and the value that they provide to the city. Those that have programs will be able to see it's the state of the clinics, the state of the clients, and our vision. In October of last year, 60+ consumers and advocates and supporters of the mental health movement came together to develop a plan, a comprehensive vision of what public mental health clinic and the services are going to look like, what we believe they should look like. So we'll have consumers that will talk about that vision. In 2009, Mayor Daley was planning to close 5 public mental health clinics. The mental health movement was smart enough to sit in his office, and he didn't know we were there. So when a reporter said to him, "What are you going to do about the closing mental health clinics?" he said, "Oh, I'm going to keep them open. I'll take care of it." He didn't tell his staff. So meanwhile, we were in his office and his staff said, "There's nothing we can do." And then it was announced that Daley had said the clinics will stay open. That was a victory. That was a victory for everyone in the room. Now, let's fast forward. 2011, a different administration came in. They decided they were going to close 6 clinics, and they didn't give a damn. And what we did was we gave Rahm Emanuel 4,000 letters of support for the public mental health clinics. Those were ignored. We did sit-ins at City Hall. We finally were pushed to the brink where we had to occupy a building, and that was the Woodlawn Clinic, one of the most successful of the 12 remaining public mental health clinics that was slated to be closed. Well, as you know, it was still closed. But we continue to fight, and the reason that we're here is because we fought and we're still alive. But things that we have found out is that it would only cost each taxpayer 25 cents a month to keep the clinics open. So what I'd like all of you to do is to talk to your aldermen who voted to close the clinics and let them know it is an affordable and desperately needed service.
They all voted to close.
Yes, all 50 aldermen did vote to close the clinics in 2011, and so they were closed. The clinics would not be here if we did continue the fight.
Well, in the past years, when the physical rights were finally being passed in the disability community, politicians were putting mental issues on hold and denying any rights for them. But these past couple of years, when it's starting to get looked at, people are often new.
And just a moment, thank you. We have kind of a fast-moving program, so we're not going to have time for that until the very end. And I want to encourage everyone to please stay to the very end and join us as we pay tribute to those that have fallen and the clinics that are still here. The first presenter is going to be Joe Patton from ASME, and she's going to give an explanation of management errors and how the city was able to claim that there was not enough money and the clinics had to go.
So I wanted to make this real brief, but I know we have people here who haven't been involved, and it's important to know where we've been to figure out where we want to go. So as Nadana indicated, the mental health movement started as a movement in response to what we perceive to be a long history of starving the clinics. My union represents the staff at those clinics, and we would hear regularly from them about frustration at not being able to give the care that they wanted to give. And you can tell by the number of clients that dropped steadily in a relatively short period of time that the problem really had an impact on the clients. The city made a decision, they starved the clinics, and lo and behold, the number of clients went down. So the mental health movement, in response to that, began to advocate actively for the clinics, for maintaining a public clinic structure that would be a safety net. And the first fight, as Nadana said, was a fight successfully to prevent the closure of 5 clinics in 2009. And then, once again, as Nadana mentioned, in 2011, we really ran into a brick wall, and that brick wall was Mayor Rahm Emanuel. He outlined in his budget, his 2012 budget, that 6 of the 12 clinics would close. And mental health movement immediately launched into action. Some of the photos here, over there is the sit-in that we had in front of the mayor's office, a Christmas action, and the first demonstration we had where we presented the thousands of letters that Nadana mentioned. At the same time, we began to do some pretty thorough research. We wanted to signal to all of the politicians what the impact of closing those 6 clinics would be. So the first point we made is they said they were forced to do this because the city was in fiscal crisis. Well, it turns out that the grand total that they saved for closing 6 clinics was $2.3 million. That is chump change when you think about the budget being $7 to $8 billion. And we went through line by line and we identified things that the Department of Public Health could have cut, like some of the management positions. They've got 7 assistant deputy directors. They could have cut money that they were planning on doing ads with. We identified those and said, take that money, keep the clinics open. We also pointed out the impact of not having access to mental health services on people's lives throughout the city. Increased hospitalization, increased issues with respect to the correction system, to the police, to the emergency room. It also really had a huge impact on people who were current clients. What happened was they not only closed clinics, leaving people with limited access, but they forced people to move, to really have to travel long distances in order to get the care they needed. I know we're going to have some testimony that's very powerful about what it means when you have to travel a lot further outside your neighborhood to get the care you need. What it means when you have to use a different therapist, when a therapist that you've worked with for 10 or 15 years has kept you able to move forward, and that person is suddenly no longer available to you. And the biggest thing that we were concerned about, not the biggest, but the other problem that was pretty clear, no surprise, is it really ended up hitting hardest in low-income and minority communities. So the clinics themselves all closed in April of 2012, but we continued the fight. This bottom photo is a photo of the Woodlawn Clinic the evening that it was occupied. The picture above it is a demonstration of thousands of people who took to the streets and marched to Rahm Emanuel's home to protest the closing of the clinics. And that's in front of the Northwest Clinic, another really important community institution, a clinic that really played a very vibrant role for a lot of people. We, 6 months after the closure, once again went back and tried to get some hard data that could help the politicians understand better the impact of their decision, because the Department of Public Health had said, oh, we're really going to monitor every single person, we're going to be very careful, we're going to make sure they get to private providers, etc. What we found was that when the city announced the clinic closures, they, in their own testimony to City Council, said, we have 5,337 clients. We are going to transition half of those, but we're going to monitor everybody. So we did a lot of Freedom of Information Act requests and tried to get information about what happened to all of those clients. They could not account for for almost half. So they could account for what happened to 2,798, but the others, and when we asked, they said, well, maybe they weren't active anymore, which really indicated to me their failure to understand the impact of what they were doing, their failure to follow through. In some cases, their idea of monitoring was sending one letter. That's not monitoring. That's not making sure that people get the care they need no matter what. Hospitalizations spiked the month following the closures, almost doubled, and that's specifically hospitalizations of people who had been clients of the mental health centers. Overall, we understand from some additional data that's been done more recently, there was a broader spike in hospitalizations. Inadequate staffing continued to be a problem at the clinics, and people felt like what had been a situation where they could go in and weekly get a session with their therapist, that was being changed. It was being moved to monthly. And the disruption, once again, having to travel, having to make new relationships with new therapists was really very challenging for some folks. So in 2013, we kept up the fight and we began to build the Heal Chicago campaign, which really focused on mental health, but also looked at the role mental health services needed to play throughout the city. We partnered with the Chicago Teachers Union and talked about the need for services that were seamless, that really worked at all levels, so that people were getting the care they needed, when they needed, where they needed. And that campaign then in 2014 started to really push harder on the issue of accountability and outreach. One of the shocking things is that this entire process went forward without a single hearing. There was not a public hearing in City Council when they made a decision that affected thousands of people's lives. And we never stopped saying, you must have a hearing. This is important. This deserves, at a minimum, a serious discussion. So we finally got a hearing. It was not the hearing that we would have wanted. A lot of people who wanted to testify were not able to because they ran out of time. But there was a hearing, and one of the things that happened in that hearing is, while the director, the commissioner of the Department of Public Health, tried to paper over a lot of the issues, his handling of that hearing, his handling of the closure of those clinics overall, clearly did not work out that well for him, because he is no longer the commissioner of the Department of Public Health. So, final thing is just what we're looking at for the future. One of the things that we've been trying to do is come up with a realistic short-term plan and then a long-term vision. The realistic short-term plan that we have been urging City Council members to consider is open or reopen, depending, 2 mental health clinics each year for 4 years. Really make an investment in having a safety net of mental health clinics throughout the city at an incredibly small investment of $2.7 million a year. In addition, we really want the Department of Public Health to do a more effective public education campaign. You can walk into some of the communities where the clinics are, and if people have recently moved in, say in the last 3 or 4 years, they don't even know there's a mental health clinic there. It is the city's best kept secret. We want the city to take public education seriously, to let people know that they have a mental health clinic in their community, and to let people know that when they're feeling depressed, anxious, angry, there's a place to go. That public education campaign is a critical component of public health, and the city is not currently doing it. The final thing is to improve overall city management and staffing of the clinics. There's been a crisis over the last 6 months because one of the psychiatrists who'd been most active and responsible and gave plenty of notice retired, and the city has not filled that vacancy. There has been an additional vacancy since then. So they're scrambling at this point. They're trying to fill in with temp folks. So it's not a good situation. The city needs to take having adequate staffing seriously so that people are getting the care they need. So final thing, as I mentioned, we're looking long-term. Advocates and staff and clients are getting together and talking about what's a good 10-year plan for the city of Chicago in order to make sure that we're meeting people's needs for mental health services. And that's a process that this meeting is one part of, and that we'll be talking more and later in the evening. So final thing, I just want to mention two people who, for me personally, and I know for a lot of you in this room, they're really heroes. Both of them have been very active in the mental health movement. They were incredible, strong women. I saw Helen Morley in a situation where most of us would have been real nervous about stepping out and saying something. It was a fancy press conference with the mayor, and she had no fear. She stepped out there. She said, "Mayor, if you close my clinics, I will die." And about 6 weeks after they closed the clinic that she had gone to for many years, she did end up dying. Jeanette, who had been very close to Helen, did hang on a lot longer. She too, however, really felt the impact of the closure of her clinic, and it just got to be too much for her. So I just want this to kind of be a gathering in memory of what those two have done, and hope that we can do as much as they've done. Thanks for your time.
That was a great presentation. Thanks a lot. If everyone has a program book, what has been lost is really something important that I want you to pay attention to, because both Helen and Jeanette died of something that we believe is called broken heart syndrome. Broken heart syndrome has to do with people that are mentally ill, that are dealing with profound depression, and that have heart disease. And closing the clinics has affected so many people. We don't know how many of our soldiers have died, but broken heart syndrome is a very important thing that people need to know about. And don't just, when someone says that they don't feel well, don't just think it's, oh, they're just having a bad day. Broken heart syndrome, anybody can die of it. Although more women who are past menopause die of broken heart syndrome than any other group. The next group we're going to hear from, though, are the consumers, some of the consumers from clinics that did close. The first person is going to be Diane Adams.
Hello, everyone.
What clinic?
I'm from my original clinic is Auburn, Gresham. Right now I'm at Inglewood. All right, when my clinic was one of the clinics that closed, and Auburn Gresham was made for us on 79 Race C. They built it from the ground.
We need you to talk into the mic.
Oh, we built it from the ground. They built it from the ground up, so we could have it. So when they came to close it, they gave my polar clinic away for $1. Now,
You need to talk into the mic.
I don't know how to. talking. Wait a minute. Okay. Okay.
No, yeah, but stay.
Okay.
Here, okay. You don't have
All
to
right,
leave the
okay.
room.
So as the closing of my sentence, there are a few people that I see on. There are a few people I see on the streets on 79th Street that used to go to my clinic because they were lost in the system. You see, when I was going there, I had 2 transportation that were from Ashland to 79th and 79th to Racine. Now I have to take three transportation, 2 buses and a train to get to 63rd Law. See, I was fortunate till I followed my my therapist there. All right, I would like to tell y'all a quick story. I only got 3 minutes. I'm gonna see if I can get it in here. In 96, I lost my son. He got killed. Then I came to Auburn Gresham. I was given a therapist and a psychiatrist. In 98, I tried to commit suicide. I was there. I was just there. And remind you, I was on 3 medications. Then in 2005, I was found on 94th and Ashland unconscious. I was in a coma for 5 months. I was out of commission for a year. I couldn't walk, talk, or eat, or any of those things that you could do normally. But then I came back to Auburn Gresham, and what they did was put me in a psychosocial rehab, which is psychosocial rehab is to teach you how to live back out in the community. At that time, I had went through 3 therapists until I finally found one that would help me with my stability, my confidence, and help me get my self-esteem back. Reminding, I was on 3 medications. Now, today, I'm on 1. It took me 10 years to get to the point where I'm at in my life now. 10 years ago, I wouldn't be standing up here in front of y'all saying this. Now that mental health means a lot to me because it helped me. Because I was just there. Until my therapist taught me about my medication and he taught me about my illness. From there, then I started making goals for myself. And I started thinking about different things, how to do this and that. Remind you, I was on 3 medications, I'm on 1. So now, I'm on the board of director on the city, for mental health. I'm also on the board of STOP. I'm a volunteer for the mental health movement. And I just got another title, I'm a spokesperson. See, you see, they tells you mental health don't mean nothing. Yes, it do. It just do. I'm not asking everybody to be strong like me, but at least give them a chance. Remember, it took me 10 years to get to where I'm at now. I am happy, I am content, and I'm at peace. So all I want you to do is get on this phone, call your mayors, call the crazy mayor, call your aldermen, tell them it's very important to keep us, these centers open, and quit trying to push us out. Because what they doing is to telling these people to go elsewhere. We'll give you a cell phone, free dental. But they forgot to tell you it's only lasts for 2 months. I'm through, y'all. Women.
I don't know.
That was great. Thank you.
Is it disconnected?
Stay with it. Yes. Don't win money.
Okay, what happened here? As Diane said, Auburn Gresham was one of the clinics that was closed. It was a premier clinic. It was built specifically to be a public mental health clinic. They had moved to another location. It was a beautiful location, because one of the things that Diane didn't tell you was that she has always been a leader. She was able to help people recover in special ways. She would organize fundraisers, which is something that's not encouraged anymore. It gives you a sense of individuality and oneness as a group when you have the opportunity to share your thoughts and make trips and make plans together, but you don't have that anymore because we are so understaffed at the clinics now. And I forgot to say, my name is Nadana Carter, and I'm a proud member of the mental health movement and a client at Greater Grand Mental Health Clinic. Our next person is going to be Linda Hatcher, who started the gospel singing. Linda Hatcher is a former client of Woodlawn Clinic, which again was a premier clinic that was award-winning. And the reason that it was closed is because gentrification is happening in the Woodlawn community, and you don't want a lot of crazy poor people running around. 3 minutes.
Okay, my name is Linda Hatcher, and when they closed the clinic up, it affected me, and it also affected my daughter. Excuse me. It affected my daughter. Me and my daughter, we both went there at the same clinic. We had beautiful therapists there that really were supported, and they really helped us. They helped us through what we are going through. And therefore, I'm always, if I see anyone mental or anyone on the street has any kind of problem or anything, I don't talk about them. If I can't help them, then that's what I specialize in really trying to help do. You know I can't talk that much, but anyway, I love everybody, and please, everybody, try to support the Board of Mental Health Center and help us. And if there's anyone in your family or anybody that has a problem, talk to them, work with them, and just be with them. I love y'all.
Okay. Andrea Cook is a woman who was one of Jeanette Hansen's best friends. It is important to hear her voice because Jeanette is not here with us. There is an area, there are a few pages of Jeanette's story. The first part is a narrative. The second part is in her own words. Jeanette was a fighter because when she could not walk, she came to meetings in her scooter. And when her scooter died, she hobbled in from 92nd and I believe it was Bishop or something. But she came to 602 East 61st Street to every nighttime meeting, rain, sleet, or snow. That's how important these clinics are to people. We don't have money, but we have heart. Andrea Cook.
Hi, my name is Andrea Cook, and I'd like to say a few words about a close friend of mine, Jeanette Hansen. And Jeanette was a longtime client of the Beverly Morgan Park Mental Health Center, and she was found dead in her apartment from natural causes on October 17, 2014. Jeanette was hospitalized 8 times from the time she was 14 until she was 34 in 1982. She was stable and didn't have another hospitalization until last year. And her family feels she was free of hospitalizations all these years because she was treated by the Beverly Morgan Park Mental Health Center. She even worked 10 years for the city as a parking enforcement aide and was able to collect a city pension. Her sisters Rosemary and Bee and her brother Gordon think it's no coincidence that Jeanette was stable for 30 years until the clinic closed. Jeanette's hospital records indicate that she suffered from anagnosia, a denial that she had a mental illness. I witnessed that myself with Jeanette. Last spring, she was caught at O'Hare trying to board a plane for California without a ticket. And O'Hare Security thought Jeanette was homeless and asked her if she knew someone that they could call for her. Jeanette gave her my number, and they brought Jeanette to my apartment. And during that stay, she told me that the doctors had lied to her all these years and that she didn't have schizophrenia. And in fact, she also told me that I did not have schizophrenia, and she hid my medications from me. Jeanette's brother Gordon said that prevention was key with Jeanette because when she's sick, it's too late. He said that Jeanette herself had said that when she was well. When sick, she doesn't believe she's sick and won't accept treatment. The Beverly Morgan Park Mental Health Center kept her grounded, according to her family. Her whole life revolved around the center. Her social contacts were at the center. All of the jobs that she had, she got through the center. And if she started to lose touch with reality, the clients at the center would challenge Jeanette's delusions in group, and she would have to face reality. She went to the center and discussed everything there, even her many physical problems, and was encouraged to seek care. Her sister Bee said Jeanette was at her best when she was working with STOP to keep the clinics open. When the city closed the clinics, Jeanette gave up hope for herself. Without the center to keep her facing reality, she stopped taking her medication and lost touch with reality. She invented a world she could accept in which she talked to imaginary and dead people using a portable Ouija board. She did things to catch the attention of the police, who would tell her that if she signed herself into a psychiatric ward, they would not arrest her. So she had 4 hospitalizations like this last year, but she could not be kept involuntarily. So sadly, in addition to her mental illness, Jeanette also suffered from physical illnesses that went untreated or undertreated during these hospital stays because they were not as obvious. She complained that no one would listen to her complaints during these hospitalizations, and she would often end up in restraints. Jeanette's sister Rosemary complained that her family should be able to intercede on her behalf, but under current law, they couldn't even confirm that she was hospitalized, let alone talk to any medical personnel. While we know that Jeanette was not taking her psychiatric medication, it was doubtful that she was taking her physical medication at home. She was found dead from hypertensive cardiovascular disease, which might not have happened if she were taking her high blood pressure medication. Jeanette's brother Gordon pointed out that if Illinois is going to close down the state hospitals and make involuntary commitments so difficult, they have to have community support like the centers. A 2013 study done by Thresholds about fiscal year 2009 through 2011 showed that Illinois made 113 million cuts to mental health services, and these cuts cost the state $132 million based on the spikes in ER visits and hospitalizations. Jeanette's family believes that she would still be here if she had the center to go to. And the city of Chicago should reopen the clinics and rename the Beverly Morgan Park Center the Jeanette Hansen and Helen Morley Mental Health Center. Thank you.
We have 2 more speakers for the state of the clients, and it's important that you do take notes about how people are affected when their only support system, many people, this was their only support system. The next person is going to be Debbie Delgado. Three minutes.
Hello. I thank everyone for being here today. This is very important for us. Our mayor had closed one of my clinics in 2012. The mayor had closed on April 9 one of our clinics, and the one I was attending was Northwest Mental Health Clinic. I was attending there since 1990, me and my 4 children. In 2006, I received a phone call from my 2 youngest children at the age of 19 and 21. They were on the way home. My oldest one had called me and told me that, Mom, I'm on my way home. I love you. I asked her, where's his brother? He said that he was right next to him. A few minutes later, I'm hearing shots. When I got on the scene, the driver was laying on the ground. He got shot in the chest and everything. My oldest one got shot in the neck. My youngest one got shot in the kneecap. A female was sitting in the back seat, got shot up 7 times. 2 days later, she was pregnant. Her, the baby, and my son died that day. My son died on a Saturday night. On Monday morning, I went to the clinic and I had told them my baby had passed away. The first thing they did is they grabbed me, they hugged me, and they told me everything was gonna be okay. If it wasn't for my clinic being there that day, I would not be standing here right now. When I went home and told my youngest one that we are closing down, he shut down because they had diagnosed him as post-trauma, major depression, borderline disorder, ADHD, major depression, anxiety, sleeping disorder, post-trauma, ADHD, and they had diagnosed him that if each one of you have a family member that is depressed or dealing with these things, how do you feel when one person has all those things, 6 things wrong with him? He does not go outside. He's 28 right now. He does not go outside. He does not deal with the society. The reason I'm standing here because the mayor had sent us to 2 different locations. One of them was on Peterson and Pulaski, and I live on Belmont and Milwaukee. And when I used to go to my clinic, it took me 15 minutes to get there. When I used to go to the one on Peterson, I have to pass 3 cemeteries. By the time I got to see my counseling, all I wanted to talk about was my baby. I need to cut, but I want you to know that this clinic is very important for us. Please open it back up. It's been in our community for 40 years. It's been a Hispanic neighborhood, and we need our clinics back in Logan Square area. This is very important, and that's why I'm standing here, because I have one at home, and I have my own life to deal with. Thank you.
You tell your story and wind it up. You got 3 minutes.
I'm Christina Pillsbury, and I've been involved with the mental health movement since 2012. And I was drawn to it because, as someone who has received some of the best mental health care in the country, I was disturbed by the fact that while that treatment is in Chicago, private treatment, that is not available to those who cannot afford it. I had health insurance, and so I was able to receive that life-saving treatment. So I know that we have seen firsthand the devastating impact of these shuttered clinics. We've seen increased hospitalizations, incarcerations, suicides, and death by heartbreak, which is a well-documented condition by the American Journal of Medicine. But the city has treated consumers as statistics, as a disposable demographic, but in doing so, they have actually positioned themselves against the strongest group of citizens in the city. Because out of adversity comes strength, out of suffering comes brilliance, and out of personal chaos comes collective organization. The testimonies that we've heard tonight are not stories of success despite mental illness. They are stories of individuals who can love, support, and empower others, who are able to speak up loud because of their experience, surviving life-threatening experience. It is because they have been through this, because we have been through this, and we are able to connect through one another and bring each other in and empower one another, that we are able to organize. However, in order to survive, we need these clinics. Any one of us in this room could need these clinics. There is no us and them in this movement. This is us and us. So the mental health movement will not be moved, and these consumers who have spoken tonight have demonstrated that unstoppable drive. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Talia. I'm with the mental health movement. And so I'm going to bring us into the final section of our program on our future vision. So as the stories and numbers you've been hearing about this hour clearly illustrate, our current mayor's efforts to reform Chicago's mental health system through clinic closures and privatization turned out to be a disastrous move in the wrong direction. Whatever the hopes and intentions in City Hall might have been at the time when the 6 clinic closures were unanimously approved, subsequent events have revealed the period from 2012 through the present to be a really shameful chapter in the history of public health in Chicago, a chapter in which our city abandoned some of its most vulnerable citizens, disrupting years' worth of these consumers' hard-won progress towards stability, towards a sense of community belonging, and towards recovery. So thankfully, more recently, a growing number of city officials and candidates have begun to take an interest in righting the wrong. Last August, at the hearing that was mentioned earlier, Alderman Roderick Sawyer of the 6th Ward gave a formal apology stating, "We were told when we voted on this that no one would be left behind. That obviously was not the case. For this I am truly sorry we let you down." And then he said, But an old friend once told me, when you make mistakes, that's why they put erasers on pencils. You can change mistakes, you can make it right." That day, Alderman Fioretti expressed a similar remorse. He said, "It was probably the worst vote I ever made. We were told certain information, and if we would have had other information, that vote would never have happened." And then just this week, in response to a survey coordinated by Access Living of Metropolitan Chicago, all of the mayoral candidates, except for incumbent Mayor Rahm Emanuel, answered yes to the question, will you reopen the city mental health clinics that were closed in 2012? So like I mentioned, Alderman Fioretti said that if they had had other information, the vote would never have happened. We at the mental health movement profoundly agree that crucial information was missing when that decision to close the 6 clinics was made. And that missing information, of course, was the voices, opinions, and experiences of the clinic consumers themselves. So to conclude our program, we want to correct this oversight by sharing with you our vision for the future of public mental health care in Chicago. To start off, I'm going to introduce William Robinson, who is a consumer at the Woodlawn Clinic, and he's going to talk about the importance of accessibility. There we go.
Thank you. The first thing I'd like to do is to welcome our mayoral candidates and all of our aldermanic candidates. Guys, stand up and give yourself applause. That tells me that you're really interested in what we're doing. I was at the Woodlawn Clinic, which was closed, and later the site of summer occupation. What I'd like to talk about is the difference of what the city clinics offer versus the private. They told me I had to go to another clinic, so I went. And I was surprised that the clinic told me that instead of paying the $3 I used to pay for the city, I now have to pay $30. That's not right. This is not, this mental health is, treatment is a right. And it's not a service. It's not profit and loss. That doesn't count. People are dying out here. And if we don't do something real quick about it, the numbers are going to go up. We still have those guys coming back from overseas, you know. So in closing, all I want to say is just thank you for coming out. We need your help. And please remember all those aldermen and mayoral candidates that did not show up. Thank you.
So now I would like to introduce Andrew Burrell, who is also a longtime consumer of the Woodlawn Clinic, and who's going to tell us a little bit about the best of the programs and sort of the feel of the clinics that we'd like to see continued and rebuilt. Andrew?
How's everybody doing? I have a unique story. I was taken off my job because I got angry. Not that I was going to do anything, but just the anticipation of a black man of a stature like I am. They took me to Reed Mental Health Center. They gave me medication. I couldn't stand up. They took my money and made me sign the paper. Okay, see, by being the man I am, I trusted that and I went along with it. You know, so then I got to Woodlawn Center. And it helped me understand what these people did, why they did it, and I'm still asking the questions, what am I doing here? I stayed, when Woodlawn Mental Health Center opened up in 1979 or 1980, I went there every morning, from 8 o'clock in the morning, all the way to about 4:30 and closed for 30 years. And I still don't understand why I was there. I seen people come and go. I seen people get jobs. I seen people get advancement. I seen this. People come back and talk, oh, you still there, Andrew? Yeah, I'm still here. Where I'm going at? I mean, I think I have a unique character of trying to understand things that I don't understand. And that's what people see in me, and they graduate toward me for answers and questions. And I have the ability to do that. But I still can't get back on the job that they took. I can't even get on Social Security because I don't make the money. They had my script from when I was a little boy, 1953, up all the way to 1979 when I got a job. Okay, then I got on Social SSI. I didn't qualify because I got 37 points. Now, if I was working from 1979 all the way to 80 or 1980 to 1990, 2000, I would be on Social Security. What happened to me? And they got a lot of people, young men, strong men, that is happening to the same thing. I play basketball with people. I try to get along. I'm a good player. I'm a good sport and all this stuff. But it don't help me on Social Security. I still can't get where I want, but I have to adjust. I have to adjust because they say I don't make enough money. And the paper is in black and white. As long as it's black and white, color can't do nothing about it. So, I mean, I'm not angry. It's just a voice of my opinion. And, you know, as far as Ron the man is concerned, somebody need to give him some medication. Straight up. They gave it to me. Why they can't give it to him? And that's me. That's me.
Okay, and so finally I want to introduce Benita Whitfield Shanklin, who's a CPS school social worker and is going to speak about the critical need for improved connections among services and institutions in Chicago. And her son Moses.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. This is my son Moses. Say hi.
Hey.
I tease him all the time about his name. Like when it was snowing really bad, I said, "Where's your staff? You're supposed to part the white snow." But I just, when the young sister was speaking, I thought about Jane Cortez. You remember her poem, "And There It Is"? And so I was thinking how beautiful that would be to end there. I just showed it to Moses, and he can read, but you know, he's only 8. So he's going to be reading that while I speak and to himself and trying to figure out how to say it to you all appropriately. And then I'll give him a chance to to make an announcement and read Jane Cortez's poem. But before that, I want to say a little bit about the future of and the vision of mental health. How nice it would be for us to be able to not have these problems, right? Like not have to look at two beautiful elder women who said, hey, if you close my clinic, I will die. What an amazing statement. And then soon thereafter actually died. You know, that is just like, wow, how unfortunate and sad. And I was just sitting there thinking, she knew it. She knew that. She knew it in her heart, and she foresaw that and could foresee that this was going to happen to her, and nobody cared. And then the other thing that when I was just sitting there listening to everything, I kept thinking to myself, why? Like, why are we even sitting here talking about this? Like, look, why is mental health not important? Why is it, all these physical clinics can stay open, but the mental health clinics can't stay open? Why is it that we do not recognize in this society the issue of mental health the way we recognize physical health? And just as I was introduced, I am a school social worker, and as a school social worker, I get to see a lot of children in need of mental health. Just so many sad stories that I can tell you, but then there's also so many beautiful stories too. And then there's even more beautiful stories of how a child was able to do because they were able to heal because they had mental health services. So for instance, where I don't even know where I want to start or end right now. I'm gonna let Mose, you have a feeling, you feel like you could read now, the little thing? And then as you're reading, then I'll be thinking a little bit more and give you all some maybe good fruit. Okay, if you trip up on a word, then I'll help you, okay? Who is it by?
There It Is by Jane Cortez. And if we don't fight, if we don't resist, if we don't organize and unify and get power to control our own lives, then we will wear
like clothing.
Wear the exaggerated look.
Okay, so he tried. All right, there it is by Jane Cortez. And if we don't fight, if we don't resist, if we don't organize and unify and get the power to control our own lives, then we will wear the exaggerated look of captivity, the stylized look of submission, the bizarre look of suicide, the dehumanized look of fear, and the decomposed look of repression forever and ever and ever and ever, and there it is. And so we have got to continue to organize. Maybe that's the reason why our city continues to think that, not just our city, but the rest of the world continues to think that mental health is not as serious as it is, because we need to organize more. So I realize that time is short and time is of the essence. Please, to those who have the power to do something, stop ignoring us and listen and recognize the importance of preventative health care. Or is it okay to have all these problems? Maybe you're just okay with it, like all these different social problems, all these people dying, and that is the reason why you don't get these mental health clinics reopened. Thank you very much for listening.
Bye.
Sweet baby. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Always. Thank you so much, Bonita. We need more social workers in our public schools. Do you realize that we have less than 400 social workers that deal with children that are struggling with mental illness because of the things that they are forced to live with? So what we are asking, not just the mayor, we're asking aldermen to vote for that $2.7 million to be added to the budget every year, because we do not have a place for our children to go to. And we need a public, at least 2 public mental health clinics opened to support our young people between the ages of 12 and 17. We are closing now. I want to thank everyone that has come. I hope the book will help you in the future to understand what people that are struggling with mental illness and forced to go to the public mental health clinics because they can't afford to go anywhere else, and receive the joy for being able to heal and find partnership at the public mental health clinics.
Healthcare is a human right.
We won't go without a fight.
Healthcare is a human right.
We won't go without a fight.
Healthcare is a human right.
We won't go without a fight.
Healthcare is a human right. Healthcare is a human